Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee and Headlines. Today is Thursday, April 30th. And if you're new to these broadcasts, my name is Paco Ojeda. We get together every morning to look at what's going on in the world around us, near and far, as it relates to Puerto Vallarta and our English speaking community. And we look for an opportunity to connect, to see how everybody's doing, to learn about interesting things to do, places to go. Yeah, like there's a lot of places we can be going, but there's a lot of stuff going on online, and there's a lot of things that we can take advantage of to keep our minds nurtured, our souls nurtured, and our well being in check. So, this is what we do. I want to tell you, actually, thank you. Sorry about that. I went to hug my kitty just a little while ago, and I should know better. The last time I went to reach out for my kitty right before my broadcast, I ended up with such an itching nose that you would have been completely entitled to having a drinking game for every time I reached over out to scratch my nose. But let's not have drinking games just yet. It's only 10:30 in the morning, although I see some people that are fellow wine drinkers in the house. Good morning, Nina. I hope you're doing well, enjoying your own space. Rita, Gail, Paul, Kathleen, Sue, Michal, it's always great to see you. So I want to tell you about YouTube. I don't know how much you love YouTube, but I love YouTube. YouTube is this wonderful place where I can go and search for things and find things that never cease to surprise me. And the reason why I love YouTube is because YouTube seems to know what I like. I mean, the more you search on YouTube, the more YouTube sends you videos that are related to what you searched before. So I tend to have good YouTube days or bad YouTube days. And last night was a good YouTube evening because I went to bed. I had my iPad with me. And contrary to the best popular advice, most people say, well, you shouldn't be using your tablet when you're getting close to bedtime because it'll keep you from falling asleep. I'm used to looking at my tablet. So last night I was lying in bed, and YouTube sent me all these wonderful videos that I want to share with you. And I was thinking last night, oh my God, where do I want to go first? Do I want to show the amazing clarinet thing that I saw, or do I want to share the amazing Bernstein thing that I saw? And will you even care? And what I ended up doing is I selected one specific video that I'm going to share with you later on today that I think will be hopefully interesting and entertaining for you to enjoy. Candace tells us that today is Adopt a Pet Day, and she can help us with that. I wish you could give us more details about this. Good morning, Luis. More wine drinkers. I love it. Sean, good morning. It's great to see you. Well, today is Adopt a Pet Day. Today is also World Jazz Day, and today is a very important day in Mexican culture. And if you don't know why, I'm going to tell you why, and this will explain certain behaviors that you may have seen taking place at local supermarkets in the last few days. But let us start with our headlines, and we'll let the rest of our broadcast unfold. Pam Thompson, I'm so glad that you're here because I want to start with a little bit of a follow-up. Yesterday we talked about this new testing facility that was established at the local university. One of you viewers asked, well, what if I'm curious? What if I'm curious and I just want to go get tested somewhere because it'll give me peace of mind? Well, I reached out to Pam, and as it turns out, as I suspected, you cannot walk into any lab and just say, well, give me a COVID-19 test. This is not possible yet. I can kind of understand why, and that's going to be my own interpretation, although I'm going to share Pam's official response in a second. My personal interpretation is if the government right now is so concerned about keeping track of where the cases are coming from, and they should be, needless to say, it's not to the benefit of the government to let people just randomly go and get tested. Anyhow, here is what Pam had to say about the question yesterday, which pretty much emphasizes or backs up what we've been talking about. These are Pam Thompson's words, word for word. I didn't change anything. I just copied and pasted. So essentially, it is what we know. If you have certain symptoms, you can call the 800 number. You get a special feature or code, and then you are sent either to the convention center or to any of the other places where the local government is now offering the tests. So if we are just curious about this, we're going to have to wait some time to just go get tested. I can certainly appreciate the curiosity given the fact that we know that certain people may get COVID-19 and not even know it because they're going to be asymptomatic. Anyhow, let's jump into some headlines. Some of these are related to COVID-19, but as always, I try to bring you a balance of things that we can stay well informed, but also entertained. Yesterday, we started hearing about this medication called remdesivir, which apparently is effective in treating coronavirus. This is based on some clinical trials that were done. And I have put aside two specific sources of information about this in case you're curious. One came from from Yahoo, and the other one came from Politico, in case you want to read more about this drug that can block the virus. Again, these are preliminary results from what I gathered. And this is an experimental drug developed by Gilead. And there's just a brand new clinical trial that was conducted by the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. So it's not something that we can or should be truly excited about. It's one step in the right direction. Again, this just unfolded yesterday. I even read somewhere that apparently Anthony Fauci wanted to go ahead and publicize this because of some leaks in the information that were going to happen or had happened. Again, this is all preliminary. You're welcome to take a look at this and tell me what you think. Yesterday, we also started a conversation, and I thank you for your participation, of just how eager we are to start going out and start living life as normal. Well, as it turns out, there's a large number of Americans who don't want to end social distancing policies despite financial devastation. I found this interesting article that reports that in a survey, 50% of U.S. adults said that they experienced a job loss or reduced work hours in their household. But if you ask them, are you ready to just go out and live life as normal? It's not like they are just eager to open the door and go back outside, as we shared yesterday. I suppose we're going to take this, as we say in Spanish, poco a poco, or paso a paso, step by step, little by little. Meanwhile, here in Puerto Vallarta, the closing of businesses that are not following the guidelines of this emergency sanitary period is increasing. There are up to 40 businesses that have been clausurado or closed in town because they are opening to the public when they should not be opening to the public. I also found this wonderful piece of news from the state of Durango, where the way the state is punishing people that are not following the stay-at-home policy is they're being sanctioned with community work, which includes sweeping the streets. There you go. This is a bunch of people that were detained and sanctioned in the state of Durango. They were sent to sweep the streets. Maybe this is something that our local government could consider in moving forward as they find ways to keep our city in check and, of course, clean. I also found out that Aeromexico is going to renew international flights starting on May the 1st. The airline has not been flying past our borders, but starting May 1st, it's going to start some flights to Asia, Europe, United States, Canada, and other countries in Latin America, including, they're going to start on May 1st, they're going to start flights to Vancouver, Madrid, Spain, Sao Paulo in Brazil. Meanwhile, on the 2nd, they're going to start with renew their flights to Seoul in Asia. On May 16, they're going to start flights to Guatemala and San Jose in Costa Rica, and also flights to Lima and Houston. So those of you who have been looking for connectivity, it's nice to see that some of this is coming back to normal, at least as far as Mexican flights are concerned. I also found this excellent read on frugality and how in this age of consumerism, a lot of us are discovering the virtues of being frugal. And it's interesting how, in glancing through this article, I haven't read the whole thing yet. This is a fascinating view of how the idea of holding on to things that we used to throw away, like plastic bags and things like that, leftovers, all of a sudden, a lot of Americans are starting to think differently about the way they dispose of things. I think this is a good thing. I certainly have become more frugal in the way I hold on to things. I hold on to plastic jars because I'd like to learn more about how other people are feeling. I have a great question right now, and I'm going to stop this for a second because Colleen asks, I would like to read about that myself. Could you please give me the link for that article? Colleen, I am so glad that you ask. Every time after we finish our broadcast, I put the links back on each broadcast so that you can look at all the show notes and consider whichever ones you wish to read. I've also been thinking about the fact that this may not be the most efficient way to do it. What would it be like for you, and I'd love to hear your feedback, if I went to create a blog post on my website and say, these are the things that we talked about today, and here is a place and a way in which you can look at these links. If this would be a more convenient way for me to do it, please let me know. I'm always eager to make sure that you have the best possible access to the information that we share here. So I look forward to your comments as we move forward through these great links. Again, this whole article about frugality, I think it's going to be a really fun read, or an interesting read at the very least. We also know, oh my God, parents, what are you thinking? There are parents that are naming their children, their newborns, after the pandemic. This article that I found in Yahoo News talks about babies. There's a baby called Corona Kumar, and then there was a baby called COVID Marie, and then there's somebody that is calling their baby, what was the other name that I thought, are you really thinking? Oh, there is a couple in India that is naming their child Lockdown. So parents, I appreciate that this has been a momentous occasion for you. I appreciate that you went through a lot of hurdles to bring another child to the world, but are you sure you want to name your child Lockdown? I know that I would not want to go through my teenage years knowing that my parents called me Corona or my parents called me COVID or Lockdown. But that's just me. I'm going to share the article so that you can read it and you can tell me what you think about this. Now, I also want to tell you, last night, as every night, I watched PBS NewsHour. This is my go-to newscast. And last night, there was a great segment on how we're coping with loneliness. And this goes to say about workers that are used to working with a bunch of people and are all of a sudden confined to home. It also addresses those of us that live alone and how we're coping. The segment talks about depression and talks about ways in which we can cope better. And there was a very wonderful interview with Vivek Murthy. Sorry about that. He is the author of a new book called Together. I'm going to share this link with you. And this is something that I think you will find interesting. Again, this is another link that will be in the show notes. And because this is a whole 1 hour newscast, I've made sure that the link to this YouTube takes you specifically to this particular segment so that I don't take more of your time today as I have to. Anyhow, I said earlier that today is a very important day in Mexico. I haven't seen any reactions to that because maybe you don't know, but today is April 30th and Mexico celebrates the Day of Children on April 30th. So if you went to supermarket yesterday or the day before and you noticed that they put a lot of toys in the front part of the stores. I went to Costco yesterday, or maybe it was at La Comer, where I saw a bunch of toys. And this is because Mexico celebrates Children's Day today. But then I thought to myself, how curious. I've got to research this because people are going to want to know more about this. And very much to my surprise, when I went into Wikipedia to read about Children's Day, it turns out that yes, Children's Day is celebrated around the world in just about every country. But when I went to look at the dates, I realized something that I never realized before. And there's a whole section in this article about the history of Children's Day. But it turns out that when you look at a table that shows you what day of the year it is celebrated, it turns out that our children, or the children of the world, don't have a unified date like Mother's Day or Father's Day or things like that. Look at this. I mean, the very first day for children occurs on January 1st in the Bahamas. And then the list goes on and on and on through the whole year. And there's Mexico celebrating on April 30th. And we are the only country in the world that celebrates children on this day. And then there's a bunch of countries that celebrate it on the 1st of June. The United States celebrates Children's Day on the second Sunday of June. And then the list continues. And of course, there's nothing we can do to change this because we are here living in Puerto Vallarta, the friendliest city in the world where nothing ever goes wrong. But how sad it is to think that children don't have a day of their own to celebrate worldwide. So if I ever get nominated for anything, one of the things that I'm going to promise in my campaign is that children should have a day for children that is the same day in the entire world, because we are one planet and children are the same wherever you go. And that's just me. Mind you, I'll never have children. I have my kitty cat. I have great nephews and nieces. Again, that's just me. Moving right along, actually, before we continue with our headlines, let me read a little bit more of your hellos because I always love to say hello to you guys. Let's see. Paul reacts to the very preliminary results from the drug that I mentioned earlier. What happens with these clausurados businesses? Will they be allowed to reopen? A fine? I don't know, Paul, but I would imagine that your husband would, because he works in the government dependency that is in charge of giving permissions to open or close. I know that you're in Washington, D.C., but I'll get in touch with your husband to find out what happens to these businesses, because it is really thought-provoking to learn what's going on. Arlene says, good morning. Let's see, a blog sounds great. Okay, so what I'm going to start doing, and we'll see how this goes, is I'm going to put a quick blog post on my website after the show with all the show notes. Catherine seems to like that idea as well. Article links, I like visuals sorted via category in your blog. Okay, I'm happy to please. I am so glad that I'm getting all this feedback. Do you give the news every day at 10:30? Sharon Boyd asks us. Absolutely, Sharon. Every morning, 10:30, we look through headlines. Some of the headlines have to do with COVID-19, obviously. Some of the headlines have to do with Puerto Vallarta because this is where we live. This is what we love. And then some of the news happen to be with personal interests of mine. I'm always going to talk a lot about music because I love music, performing arts. These are the things that I like. If you tell me, well, you know, what's going on with golfing in the Bay, well, I'll go research that. I'm not a golfer, but hey, I aim to please. So yes, if you are new to these broadcasts, Sharon, I hope that you will continue to join us. Pam reacts to the names. Um, Tells us that she calls the hospital COVIDlandia. I love it. And she refers to COVIDiots. Yes, we've talked about the lingo before. Kathleen recommends another interesting show on YouTube, Some Good News by John Krasinski. I have seen John Krasinski's show. John Krasinski, correct me if I'm wrong, he's married to the actress that played Mary Poppins, and I think this is the same person. If not, just correct me and I'll be happy to research this new suggestion. Christ P. Thomas, Mother's Day is different in many countries as well. Yes, that is unfortunate. At least the date seems to center around May. It's a little closer together. I was a little disappointed to see that all these Children's Day happen in so many different days. David T. Weber, I had not seen you here before. Thank you for joining us. I want to apologize to all those people that do not catch us live. If we take a lot of time saying hello to people that catch us live, please forgive us. We're trying to create community. We're trying to reach out. We're trying to react to the fact that we're confined. This can be a little tedious to people that are not watching live. You're also very important to us. You're also very special. If you don't have a chance to watch us live at 10:30 in the morning local time, it's still wonderful that you catch the show later on in the day. As you know, the show is available here on Facebook, and it is also available on my YouTube page. More hellos. Thank you so much for joining us. A Worldwide Children's Day. Let's start sending some letters, Stacy. Let's see what we can do about that. Please remind people to continue to contribute to Vallarta food banks and to continue through August at least. Absolutely. We have been mentioning Paul Christ's GoFundMe campaign. If you hear about other people that are doing fundraising for food, please send me links, and I'll be happy to share them. The more, the merrier. And Kathleen reacts, yes, we're talking about the same person. Then I will definitely share links to this particular YouTube broadcast that you're mentioning, because I've seen some of the things that they've done and they've been really, really wonderful. More reactions. David is normally working. Are you in town, David? Let us know that you're safe. David T. Weber has a very popular bar here in town called Cookie. I'm sure that you're not able to be open right now, or maybe you are. I don't know. Please let us know how you're doing. More comments about Mother's Day and so forth. It's so glad that you're watching from so far away. I have a few more headlines to share with you. Yes. And this is interesting and important. Another thing that I read online last night is that the May Cultural Festival is going to turn into an online celebration. Now, before COVID-19, I had been in Guadalajara enjoying some concert by the Philharmonic, and it was then that I realized that the city of Guadalajara will have its annual May Cultural Festival. And because this is a year in which we're celebrating Beethoven in all over the world, I believe it's his 250th anniversary. The May Cultural Festival in Guadalajara had amazing performances lined up, including some orchestral stuff, some theater, some dance, most of it related to Beethoven, but some not related to Beethoven. I had written an article about this on my website, and of course then came the pandemic and everything went to pot. Well, now they're announcing that they're going to do a virtual festival, and I took a quick look into the website. I'm going to show it here, and I see that they have changed their headline to say Mayo Digital, or Digital May. They have not yet updated all their content, but I see that the festival, which begins in a week, already advertises that there's going to be a dance performance that is going to be transmitted digitally for the first time in Latin America, and another one here. So I am going to bookmark this. I hope that some of this other really wonderful programming, for example, a pianist by the name of Lur Williams had been announced to perform all of Beethoven's sonatas. So I wonder if this is going to be something that is going to be available digitally and something that we will be able to support. So again, I'll continue to keep track of this. I get a sense as to the fact that you enjoy all these digital offerings very much. I've shared a bunch of them in the past, and you have reacted favorably to them. David, good to know that you're fine and safe. Pam and Paco should get the Puerto Vallarta Person of the Year award. I am not so sure about that. I'm just happy to have a purpose, and my purpose comes from you. I'm very grateful for the consideration, but I think the Person of the Year award should be given to anyone that is able to give purpose to anybody else. I think as we rethink our values, as we rethink our professional and personal decisions, I think it's important, and that's just my opinion, to be mindful of how much purpose we have in the world and how much purpose we give to people around us. But that's just me. What can I say? Craig Erison tells us that Reina's Bar has a campaign going geared to the LGBT community in need. Marco, if you're watching, please let us know. Craig, if you have any more details, please let us know. So, we have reached the end of my headlines, and now it's time for me to tell you about my little YouTube surprise of yesterday. And I'm going to preface this by saying I am not very well versed on popular culture. Like, I couldn't tell you one Kardashian from another, and I get that those kinds of things all mixed up. But I follow a lot of gossipy things that relate to music and musicians and so forth and so on. So this is a little bit of a show and tell, and I'm going to share links to everything that is going to follow now. So hang on, this should be fun. I have, as you know, I lecture about music appreciation, and not too long ago I gave a lecture about classical music humor, or artists that use humor to get people closer to classical music. There are a bunch of performers out there. Some of them have died, have passed on. Some of them are living. For example, we think of the wonderful Anna Russell, who's a soprano, and she used to give these wonderful concerts in which she combined comedy and classical music. There was the amazing pianist Victor Borge, which we have featured here in the past. And there are two violinists. They go by the name of Two Set Violin. And these two guys have a really fascinating history. They are two violin players that perform around the world, and they are hysterically funny. If I click on their About page, you'll see that their names are Brett and Eddie. There they are. Even they're geeky looking if you look at them. They used to perform in Australia, and that's the country where they're from. They founded themselves as Two Set Violin in 2014. And they have a huge following on YouTube because they do all these spoofy videos about all kinds of things. And most of their videos are really, really funny. For example, I don't know if you've heard of Hilary Hahn. She's a multiple-time Grammy Award violinist. She is a truly, truly talented, very serious musician. Well, Two Set Violin managed to hook up with her, and they challenged her to play some of her classical music masterpieces while she's hula hooping at the same time. And I won't show you the videos here because YouTube gets on my case if I show you a video. Anyhow, Two Set Violin gets it right 95% of the time. Their videos are funny, they're hysterical, and they are very, very helpful in get audiences like you and I connected with the world of classical music and the challenges that classical musicians have to practice, to learn their notes, to be in tune or out of tune, and so forth and so on. And again, these guys have been very successful. If you look at this, they have 2.3 million subscribers on their channel. Well, something went wrong not too long ago. They did a spoof video in which they compared the musical quality of the violin versus the recorder, the instrument we all play when we were kids. Needless to say, in the video, they make the violin to come out as the great instrument that it is, because that's the instrument that they play, and they ridicule the recorder. So a lot of recorder players got a little miffed about this. They felt that the offense was a little bit personal. So here we are, two-set violin. Enter this gal whose name is Sarah Jeffrey. And Sarah Jeffrey also has a YouTube channel. Her YouTube channel is called Team Recorder. She's a professional recorder player. And as you can see, she is someone who dedicates herself to empowering recorder players all over the world to play recorder. And she has her own YouTube channel where she has published a bunch of YouTube videos to encourage people to learn different recorder techniques regardless of your level. And I know that, or I'm sure that our local recorder players are well aware of this. Well, anyhow, what has this got to do with anything? Well, in her YouTube channel, she reacts to the video that Two Set Violin put together, in which she defends the recorder, and she actually ends up giving the Two Set violinists a little slap on the face in terms of how they ridicule the instrument. She says, ultimately, we all should be supporting one another in these times. I think it's great that you do a lot of humor, but, be kind to one another, kind of thing. So I watched the video last night, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the link to this video as well. And what's going to happen is several things if you actually go and watch it. Number one, you're going to learn about two-set violin. Again, they can be truly, truly funny sometimes. And in this rebuttal video that Team Recorder put together, you get to learn so much about the possibilities of the instrument. It really is amazing. Anyhow, these are things that we are going to share with you today at the end of this broadcast, which is coming up very, very soon. I have shared some links with you today. Today will be the first day that I'm going to share these links also on the website, and I will put the link of that on the Facebook page to see if this is a more efficient way for you to take advantage of all these links that I'm sharing. And this brings us to the end of today's broadcast. As always, I am grateful for the fact that you're here. I love the fact that many of you tune in every morning. I love the fact that I recognize you. I feel like you're new friends to me. And I always continue to be mindful of those of you who do watch, and there's a huge number of people that watch this at a later time in the day. This is largely because you, who are regularly here with us, take the time to share these broadcasts later on in the day. And this is something that I'm truly, truly grateful. Every time that you share the link of the broadcast with somebody else, that means that we give other people the opportunity to also broaden their horizons in terms of whatever interesting, fun, or important knowledge that we share here. For that, I am always grateful, as you know. And with that, I leave you for the rest of the day. I'm going to go back to, I haven't even told you, yesterday was a great first day of live streaming university. I attended 6 or 7 courses during the day, found time to get together with you, and today I already attended 2 sessions and I have like 5 more to attend. I'm learning all kinds of things, including the fact that this green screen behind me may be old-fashioned. This is not a real brick wall behind me, as most of you know. But in case you don't, let me convert it into something else just to make a point. Bam! I now have a different room. So I've thought this would be a good way to keep things clean, but now I've come to learn that some people think that doing a green screen background is out of style. Personally, I think my house is really messy. You would not want to see any corners. And I started broadcasting with one of the corners in my study. I don't know if I'll go back to it. Maybe you seem to like this. I don't know. What's important is that I continue to share wonderful information with you and that you continue to give me the opportunity to do that. With that said, I wish you a fantastic day, and I will see you again tomorrow. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a great day.